Good day, my name is Russ Smith, and I am the faculty lead for the Spatial Justice Studio at CDI, which is a collaboration between Winston-Salem State University and the UNC School of the Arts. We're pleased to bring this video to you, brought in part by the Winston-Salem Foundation and additional sponsors like the Spatial Justice Studio, which is focused on examining the history around redlining. Undesign the Red Line is focused on educating the community around important issues that took place in our community in the 1930s, in which communities were excluded from participating in financial resources, which led to inequalities that we still see on the landscape today. You might ask yourself, what is spatial justice? Spatial justice is a concept that tries to give a vocabulary to the reality that many communities face, not only in Winston-Salem, but around the country. Communities that are struggling to be sustainable, communities that are in need of healthcare, education, job opportunities, transportation choices. All these things show themselves as spatial injustices. And at the Spatial Justice Studio, we're interested in educating and conducting research around these important issues to hopefully make a better, more sustainable future for our entire community by hosting and hoping for more access, more opportunity, and more inclusivity in terms of the economy, the community, and the environment. So I hope you can enjoy this video.
For those who perhaps don't know, it's about redlining, which is something that took place in the United States starting back in the 1930s or so. For those who are familiar with redlining, it really goes into more detail. It provides historical documents, copies of them, to let you know that this wasn't just happenstance. It was really a purposeful project to limit opportunity for African Americans first, and then other minorities, people who were considered to be, quote, foreign-born, Italians, Polish, Irish, etc. I thought in the beginning that this was something that impacted North Carolina and other southern states of segregation. Was I wrong? Because it took place all over the country. There were 239 cities to begin with, and the map that's on panel 1 is of the Bronx, New York. So it took place all over the country. They wanted to make sure that there were opportunities for white families to have good homes, good neighborhoods, environments. And to do that, they felt that they had to limit or they had to restrict. Starting with the green means go, that was a good neighborhood. And on one of the documents back there, you can see what conveniences were in that green neighborhood. That was rated a number 1. Redlining was sort of like a credit score before there was a credit score. And so you went from green to blue to yellow to red. And of course, the red line areas were considered to be not desirable. Not only did you just have redlining in terms of your grade and whether or not there was infiltration or whether or not there were foreign-born nationals coming to your neighborhood and trying to live. It also affected employment. It affected mortgage lending. It affected economics. We say today that there are groups of folks who have no equity or have very little equity. Well, one reason was because of redlining. The easiest way for Americans to build equity is to have a home. Own your own home. Over time, the equity builds up, and you can use that equity for other things. Well, if you were renting in an apartment or a duplex or something that you could not own, or even if you owned, but if it was in a red line area, you were not going to get the equity that, say, for instance, they would get in Buena Vista. So that carries generation to generation to generation, and that's how it affects us today. You can look at the map today, the red line areas, and generally it is the eastern part of the city, which is where I grew up. The way that it looks different today is when my generation of children grew up, our parents and grandparents had gone through probably the worst of segregation and Jim Crow. they did not have the opportunities that came to us eventually. So they protected us. And I always talk about the village. It takes a whole village to raise a child. So they protected us. We felt very, very protected, even though it was a very dangerous society, but we felt protected. Today, I am told that most of the housing in East Winston is now rental. There are still some areas where it is a single-family home, but there are a lot of rentals, which wouldn't be a problem, but they are absentee landlords. So the absentee landlord doesn't really care. Are you up to code? Is the porch falling down? Do you need to do landscaping around the house? Whatever it happens to be. That's the problem today. You have landlords who really are interested in the money, in the investment, and they're not interested in their renters. People are the best ones to ask, what would you like to see done? Number one, you have to be aware. I've done tours for some people who did not know. They did not know about redlining. I mean, why would they know? They lived in an area that was fine and protected, and they never had to think about it. So the first thing is you have to know, you have to become aware. Then you've got to think about, well, how can we change things? How can we redesign? How can we reinvest? And investment, I think, is one of the big solutions. The most important thing for me, and I've said this many times, is we have to communicate with each other. And so I have met many people, black, white, foreign-born, Italian, heritage, whatever. And we talk to each other. We don't talk past each other. We don't talk above or below each other. We talk to each other. And there's not a blame game going on. It's just having a conversation. If anything, you're going to blame the architects of redlining. But even so, let's say there was one person who was he was connected with the city back in that day and time. And he wanted to be sure I understood that was not his purpose. That was not his goal. And I understand that. And I said to him, no one is blaming. We're just saying this is what happened. We've got to stop it so that we can move forward today. So I think the main thing is communication. But then after the communication, and you see all of the agencies and groups over there that have attended, after the communication, there has to be some sort of gathering, some sort of coming together to actually come up with an action plan. We could sit here and talk about this for like 3 days. But if you don't have an action plan afterwards, what good is it? The people who need and want their own home, we need to help them get that. The people who need a mortgage, we need to instruct them on how to do that. The people who need better banking systems. And I always say, I'm a kid of the civil rights movement. Boycotts did work. I think they still do. So if Bank B will not give you a mortgage, let's go to Bank C, but tell everybody else about Bank B. Don't go there. Don't give them your deposits. Don't give them your money. Don't take a loan from them. Go over to that bank. And those kinds of things work. We really need to address people where they listen, and that's in their wallet. And none of the people that I have met who've been through, none of them think that this was a good thing. Everyone is appalled by this, regardless of their race, regardless of their wealth, just regardless. They're appalled that this happened. And they would like to do something. They don't know exactly what. So the powers that be need to sit down and decide, okay, this is the what. This is what needs to be done. So the only thing I wanted to point out on panel number 4, and these are all local stories. These are stories from Winston-Salem residents who had issues at one time or another. This here was a picture of one of the black business districts. It is still in Winston today, although the black businesses are not standing. This is Church Street. This is 4th, right down the hill from the old Reynolds Building headquarters. On this corner right here today is the Public Safety Building. And if you go down 4th Street heading in that direction, that will take you into East Winston. You'll see something that looks like it's jutting out. That was the Lafayette Theater. And this was a black business for many, many years. Again, Winston was segregated, and so we had to have our own everything. Movie theaters, businesses, meat markets. It was not a food desert back in those days. There were grocery stores and many other things in the neighborhoods at that time. And of course, all those got knocked out as 52 came right through here, north to south. And all of these neighborhoods on the eastern side of 52, these were black neighborhoods with homes, businesses, agencies, etc. Most of them are gone now. There might be one or two still in existence, but most of them are gone now. And most of this right here is open space now. So this is the redlining map from Winston-Salem, the entire area here. This, of course, was north of the city where the airport was, Smith Reynolds Airport. And you can see the grades. Green was A1, blue was B3, yellow had various numbers, and then the red lines were all given the letter D. And this was my neighborhood here. Here was the 14th Street Park for colored, and my house would have been right in there. So I was on perhaps the border of a red line and yellow. But it's interesting, most of these houses in this area were all single-family homes, but they were redlined. Of course, this area west of the city was Buena Vista, Westview. And so when people come, we ask them to please plot where they lived today, and where they used to live. So the yellow pins show where they are currently. The white pins show where they used to live. And of course, with Highway 52 coming in here, many people who used to live there, that area is gone now because it's just an open space adjacent to 52.
I hope you've enjoyed this video and the exploration of redlining within Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. If you're interested in being part of the solution, there are lots of ways in which you can get engaged. I encourage you to, one, reach out to the Spatial Justice Studio and let us know that you're interested in being an active participant in tackling issues of spatial injustice. Two, it's also important to engage with elected officials. So reach out to your mayor, to your alderman, and let them know that these issues are important to you and that you want to see issues of food deserts, transit deserts, inequalities in education and income, housing disparities, all addressed at the local level. And then finally, attend public meetings. It's important for your voices to be heard along those that are directly affected by rezonings, transportation plans, and the like. By participating through these processes, you can help rectify and change the future that we all know can be better and more sustainable for our entire community. Thank you.